Hey everybody, how are ya? I let's see, kind of set up this camera real quick. I think it's kind of weird. I got it up a little bit. Um, Anyways, happy Sunday. I apologize. I wasn't able to live stream last week because I was on a plane, and that always makes it difficult. Hey, Whittier, watch what's happening. So Kesha's in the house. Kesha just reminded me I need to post this in the group live. Let's talk homelessness. So where are we? It's kind of been a lazy Sunday for me. How about you guys? What are you doing today? So let me see. Internet's I'm live streaming. That's probably why. Okay, so we are on, and oh my gosh, look at all of you here. Hey, Eddie's in the house. Ashley, hello. Adrian, Savannah, Georgia. I don't think I've ever visited there. Linnea, what a wonderful name. Sunshine, hello. Crystal, hello. Nancy, hi. Providence, hello. Hi, everyone. Gabrielle, good to be seen. Let's see. Derek's in the house. Woo! Hi, Rhonda. Whittier watch. There's lots of stuff on Skid Row, and you are in luck. Have I told you about the 5 documentaries that are coming? This is the last live stream of the year. And just thought we'd hang out. I don't have any real agenda or anything planned. Oh, there is a shadow there. As the shadow lurks, I I don't have any planned, including camera placement. So I don't know if I've talked about the documentaries. Don't know if you guys want to know what's happening, but since you brought it up, there is one of them is going to be about a gentleman named Suitcase Joe, who's a photographer who spends his time really showing the humanity of Skid Row. I mean, all of the documentaries that we're doing, they're little short docs, are really exciting. I don't want to get my hopes up, meaning what I'm going to say is I really like the Skid Row Suitcase Joe story a lot, but I like all of them. So we'll see. Hey, Slim, yeah, I was on a plane. It's kind of hard to live stream on a plane. You know what? I'm just going to open this up. I am feeling brave. And we're going to be brave. How's that? Let's just open it up. Normally this is just between us, but being the last live stream of the year, why not get a bunch of people in here and let's have a party? Gosh, I wish I had kind of planned a little bit better on the camera placement. So, but I did make a thumbnail. I am horrifically horrible. I am bad at thumbnails. Oh my gosh, am I bad at thumbnails? So let me see. Let's see what happens when we spike the audience and go public. KKK. And you like that? I really like that photo. I got it for something that we're doing in Invisible. Yeah, that shadow bothers me. And it just, there's this thing about the image of homelessness. And what I mean is, and since we're talking about Suitcase Joe, he is able, Skid Row is one of the most harshest environments that I've ever been in or that I have experienced. But when you get to meet the people, when you get to know their stories, you see the humanity of Skid Row. You see the community of Skid Row. And there's this contrast. I mean, a very stark contrast between the harshness of Skid Row and the beauty of Skid Row. And I really I don't know. I love that. And Whittier, Skid Row is scary and Skid Row is wonderful. Gosh, we had a stabbing at a rabbi's home. We live in a world now that's scary, and to validate your point a little bit, I used to be scared of Skid Row. Even when I was homeless, I was scared of Skid Row. And now 2 weeks ago, I was walking Skid Row, and, just if you respect people, they'll respect you back. I don't know if you guys, you know what, maybe I should make a thumbnail of this, but one of the images, and hopefully we'll put it in the documentary that really struck me was there's one of these giant dumpsters, and there was a gentleman inside the dumpster that was digging, dumpster diving. So for those of you that have never dumpster dived, let me give you a tip. Don't let the first layer scare you. You've got to jump right in because the good stuff is at the bottom. And talk about scary. Dumpsters can be scary. It's that first layer is like really yucky and you don't see the gold at the bottom. Well, it's the gold at the bottom that's the good stuff. So you just got to jump right in there. Anyways, this guy, he was dumpster diving and he would find something that's good, meaning food that's still edible. And he would put it up on the ledge for other people to come by and grab. And there was a gentleman on his bicycle and he couldn't reach up for the stuff. So I helped him. But it just, you look, at places like Skid Row and you see it on the media and you're like, oh my gosh, this is scary. This is scary. And there's beauty there too. It's human. So I'm going to talk about it. So one of my visions for Invisible People has always been, so a lot of the storytelling on homelessness is spun around fundraising. That's not necessarily bad. Nonprofits have to raise money, but it's also not necessarily the truth. In fact, I produced, it's online someplace. It's not on Invisible People channel, but I produced my story, and as a television producer. I produced my story of homelessness, and it was my story, but it was really spun to raise money. The point I'm trying to make is the authentic, real story of homelessness is rarely told. So one of my visions has always been to go into a community and tell the story of homelessness that nonprofits don't share, or that, oops, I'm trying to do something here, that nonprofits don't share, or they can't afford to share, or the big nonprofits are often driven by politics. They don't tell the stories that need to be told, or they tell them crappy, because believe it or not, big nonprofits spend millions of dollars on sucky marketing. So one of my visions was to go into communities and do authentic storytelling. So we're going into, well, we already went into Los Angeles. A wonderful woman, producer, videographer, YouTuber, Alex, helped me go in and shoot. So the first story is Theo, and Theo might even be on this. Theo, are you there? And Theo is homeless in Chinatown, and he runs a podcast for interviewing other homeless people, similar to what I do, but he's currently homeless. It's an amazing story. Theo is a wonderful man. And then and Derek's in the room. So part of the idea came about when, well, I've always had the idea, but then YouTube gave us some money to do VR 180. I went up and did the tent camp story in Oakland, but it was in VR 180, which is great, but it limits the audience. So I raised the money to go in and do these documentaries. So the first one's Theo. The second one is LAHSA, which many of you, if you don't know, LAHSA is Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. And LAHSA is this giant government organization. I don't even know if they're a nonprofit. They might be. It was actually created by a judge when the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles sued each other. And if you have been following me for the 11 years I've been online, I started out as a case manager, and I hated LAHSA. Oh my God. Because my job was to house families. It was a different LAHSA back then, and I kept on hitting this bureaucracy that was maddening. So I was on Twitter just slamming LAHSA all the time. And then Peter Lynn took over. It's a new LAHSA. I adore Peter Lynn. Tough job, huge bureaucracy. I mean, LAHSA could do so much more if the politicians would let them. And recently, LAHSA has been being thrown under the bus. They've been thrown under the bus. So we're going in to do a good story on LAHSA. And then we followed Eric, who is one of the most amazing outreach workers up in the valley, where we went into tent camps in the valley. Then we followed Jane in K-Town, who is awesome. You might have seen the vlog I did on K-Town. This is going to be more of a produced thing. And the last one was Suitcase Joe on Skid Row. So those will probably post late January, early February, but it's really, 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 really exciting. Okay, I'm going to catch up. Yeah, Eric, Eric Bremen, homeless nonprofits are $1 billion industry, multi-billion dollar industry. And could you imagine if we didn't have them? what would happen? So there's this, and I'm going to start from the top. In the 1980s, chronic homelessness didn't even exist. There's no such thing as chronic homelessness. Then in the 80s, $15 billion of affordable housing funding, HUD funding, was cut. And that's never been replaced. So all of a sudden, all these people started ending up, I got an itch. What am I screaming about? Anyways, in the 80s, there was no such thing as chronic homelessness. $15 billion worth of HUD funding was cut. Overnight, it created the homeless industry we see today. And it's not that people are profiting. Nobody said, well, let's cut affordable housing and create all this industry to make money. No. Whatever reason, the Republicans cut the funding, okay? And Democrats do dumb stuff too. So it's on both sides. But anyways, the funding was cut. All of a sudden, there's no, lack of affordable housing, which we're seeing the results of that being cut, plus other things like the lack of affordable housing. Rents have gone up 75% in the last 5 years. And what's that's done is it's created this homeless industry. And yes, it's $1 billion industry. And should it exist? No. Are people intentionally trying to profit off homelessness? No. Nobody I know. And I know a lot of people in the sector, and I've probably traveled to more towns than anybody, gets up in the morning and goes, how can we create more homelessness to make money? No, it's a cause and effect. So homelessness is caused by racism. It's caused by foster care, criminal justice system, lack of affordable housing, domestic violence, mental health, drug addiction, and all that. So this $1 billion industry, which has problems, you'll see me rant all the time about how the industry is perpetuating itself, but the industry is there because of all this other stuff creating homelessness. If all that homeless industry went away, what a mess tomorrow would be. You know what I mean? Instead of pointing fingers and saying, oh, there's $1 billion homeless industry, we need to figure out how to streamline the homeless industry so it's more effective, reduce bureaucracy so people get the help that they need when they need it. There is no place there. You guys got me ranting. The last live stream of the year, you got me ranting. There is no place in the United States that I know of, and probably Canada and the UK too, where a homeless person who is hurting can go and get the help they need when they need it. Yeah, there's a food line. They might be able to get food. They might be able to get a hygiene kit. But let's say they have some medical condition or they need housing. There's no way. I have a friend. She's a single mom. She was homeless. She says she contacted homeless services 50 plus times, and didn't get any help. Now, imagine you're sick, right? And you go to an urgent care or a hospital. Imagine just going to the doctor for your physical. Imagine you need a lawyer. Maybe you need new tires. Whatever it is, as a housed person, you might get one referral. So you go to get to the mechanic, and the mechanic's busy, says, I can't help you right now. Here's a friend down the street. He can help you. You go there, you get your car fixed, right? Or you go to a doctor and the doctor says, you know what? You need to see a specialist. So then you go to a specialist and you get your problem fixed. 1 or 2 stops, boom, you're fixed. Your service is fixed, right? In the homeless sector, you go to a homeless services. You put in the data, then you're put in the queue. You're not even told where you are. One of the pet peeves I have about the homeless industry is homeless people give personal data. They give their personal data to the homeless sector, and then they're not informed where they are. You wouldn't stand for it if you were in a hospital. You wouldn't stand for it if you were in a school or a mechanic or wherever you are in the queue. But homeless people don't. Anyways, so this idea that, and yeah, I wish homelessness didn't exist. I wish there was no racism. I wish there was no mental health issues or addiction issues. I want to say I pray, because I do, but I mean, domestic violence is horrible, and it's a leading cause of homelessness. So all these causes, people say they're going to end homelessness. Well, to end homelessness, you got to go upstream, right? So you have all these causes of homelessness, and unless you stop them, what are people going to do? So think about it. Bitch about the $1 billion homeless industry, and then imagine it all goes away. So the people that are leaving jail, the foster kids, the women and men that are getting beat up by their significant others, if the industry goes away, they have no place to go. That doesn't make a lot of sense either, does it? Sorry, you got me going. Yes, the homeless sector, like any sector, the tech sector, the medical sector, the food industry, every sector, we're humans. It's messed up. It needs to improve, but it also does an amazing amount of good. In fact, the homeless sector has been housing more people than it ever has. The problem is there's more people entering into homelessness than ever before. So imagine, let's get rid of it. There's $1 billion homeless industry. Let's get rid of them. Okay, then what happens to all these people entering homelessness? They die? You cool with that? I'm not. So anyways, sorry, rant over. Somebody just asked about updates. Sure, there was a couple of updates of Rocky. I had a text with Rocky today. I actually bought Rocky, or Invisible People. You guys bought Rocky a drill. I know it's something small, but when somebody goes into housing, there's all these new battles that start. And you take somebody who's lived in a park for 4 years, and then you take them, put them in an apartment far away with, little money, no car, and they're stuck in this apartment. They have no interaction. Well, if you look at Rocky's video, which is awesome, I regret I didn't bring my good camera. I shot it on my phone. She makes stuff, and it gives her purpose, but she was doing it all with her hand and a knife. So I got her a nice drill and some bits. She's really excited about the screwdriver bits because they're magnetized, but it gives her purpose. And then Aryan, we did an update on Aryan. I was just in Venice, and Alicia, actually the first day she wanted to do an update. And the reason I bring that up is because Alicia is still out there homeless. So you have Rocky in housing, you have Aryan, who's now off the streets, but most people are still homeless. And at first, Alicia said, I want to update my video. And because she sees that, a lot of people interviewed on Invisible People read their comments. Brenda, it was another update. Brenda was the first while Brenda was on the street of New York City. I mean, she wasn't the first to comment and read, but she was engaging with the community, leaving comments. It was really, 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 really amazing. But whenever possible, I will try to do updates, both updates that are amazing, like they're in housing, or updates that sadly they're still homeless. So Slim Clampton, the homeless crisis all over the country needs national attention. So HUD, Housing and Urban Development, does a point in time count, and it's flawed. It's really, really focuses just on chronic homelessness. This is where one of the issues where the homeless industry needs to improve, because it doesn't really count a lot of families. No family in the middle of January is sitting outside waiting to be counted, right? So the number is flawed. So the HUD data, when they say, oh, it dropped around the country, but in California it rose so much it made the whole thing skewed. Yeah, Californians grown, but every place in the country, bullshit that homelessness is going down. Every place I travel to, and I hit probably 30 cities a year, it's not less. And everybody I talk to, online and off, does not, unless they work in the homeless sector. See, again, that's where the homeless industry, I'm going to talk about this. So one of the things I hope in 2020 that changes is the homeless industry, and it's only human, really wants to give the public the perception that we're winning, that what we're doing is winning. And the public is seeing more street homelessness. So by saying, oh, look, we're ending homelessness, and the public seeing more homelessness, that creates distrust. And I think it's part of the reason this harmful narrative keeps growing. There's a bunch of different reasons for that. My suggestion to the homeless sector, instead of saying, yes, we've ended 78 cities, veterans homelessness, is to be honest and say, you know what, we're doing better than we ever have. We're housing more people than we ever have. But there's more people entering homelessness than ever before. And without your help, it's going to get worse. That is how the homeless services should message homelessness, in my belief. Hopefully, I'm hoping in 2020 that we can raise the money to do some research. So I'm here ranting, and you guys are talking politics in the chat room. Kimmy, thank you, but I'm no saint. Wendy, awesome. Glad you're in housing. And Addie is staying quiet while Derek is talking politics. Uh-oh, UBI is coming up. Walter is in the house. Hey, Walter. I am no saint, Addie. I'm really not that nice. I'm just an old fat guy with a bag of socks and a web camera at the moment. Oh, UBI is still coming up. UBI. Hey, I like that. UBI, 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 laughing out loud. Do we need to talk UBI? Hey, Walter, did they get you stuff yet? I meant to message you today. Are you still in a barren apartment? And speaking of people that wanted updates, you got Derek and Walter in the chat room. Hey, Charles, how are you? I know who you are. You met me over by Burger King and gave me a nice handshake last time. Okay, Racer X. So I believe UBI is a good thing. I really do. However, if UBI, which is universal basic income, does not cover housing, utilities, food, phone, some basic living expenses, transportation, it's not going to do a thing. Yang's UBI is great for getting votes. There is a group, they're zealous, they want their $1,000 and they will fight for it. That's great. And they'll argue, and I get in these arguments a lot. Well, $1,000 will help them. They'll get some food and clothes. And I say, well, then go sleep outside with food and clothes and see how much you love it. Right? There is no place in this country where $1,000 a month, pays for rent. Then they say, well, they can pool together. Well, that's great for college students. How many of you have lived with roommates for a long time and it works out for a long time? It doesn't. That's not sustainable. And the reason UBI is important is because down the road, in 5 years, 4 million truckers will be laid off. 4 million truckers will be laid off because trucks will drive themselves. Data entry clerks, 7 million data entry clerks will be out of work. Pharmacists are one of the first going to be automated. From high end to low end jobs, automation is going to kill workers, kill jobs. So homelessness, because of the lack of affordable housing, will continue to skyrocket. You add this all together, also with elderly homelessness, you have the perfect storm of homelessness coming. $1,000 a month sounds great. It's going to help the middle class, but it won't do a damn thing to prevent homelessness or to get people off the streets. UBI has to happen, but $1,000 a month is really just a political campaign. Oh, KK, you're talking about forcing people into, and I'm torn because I have had clients. I think it's a tough conversation, and I'll be honest. I see both sides. Where it gets really scary and concerning to me is they're looking at forcing everyone on the streets. into, oh my gosh, what happened here? Okay, you're supposed to be, that's focused, and now this isn't focused. Oh, I hate these cameras. Ugh. You guys don't mind me being all fuzzy now. I think what that is strange. Why is that? Come on. There's no control over these cameras. Ugh. See, if you watch my last the 1000th video, this stuff drives me crazy because I really am a television producer by trade, and this. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. Woohoo! Well, now, what were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about forced use, not forced use of shelter, but you're also talking about mental illness. I've had clients that I thought needed a very significant last resort intervention. And but they weren't hurting themselves and they weren't hurting others, so the courts wouldn't allow it. Now, in the situation that comes to mind is a client of mine in Glendale, and I was really hoping that we could get her into some kind of facility that could better help her. The court said otherwise, and that's the way it is. Where the rub is for me is, how do we define the line? I don't know. One of this country is based on freedoms. Of course, you're not allowed to hurt, and it's a good thing. You're not allowed to hurt others, and if you're hurting yourself, then things, you will be action taken. But otherwise, you have freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and a lot of different things. So where do we draw the line? And where it's getting really scary for me is, as homelessness grows, politicians and businesses and a lot of people are talking, they're moving in the direction of, they started calling it obligation to use. Now they've changed that. It all means the same shit. They are now using the term legal imperative. And I know, KK, you're talking about a specific mental illness, and you're talking about families, and my heart breaks for you and breaks for other families. I know a few people who have relatives that have severe mental illness, and it's hard. And I know a few people that have severe mental illness. And it's where do you forcing people? Because it's been coming up a lot about forcing people into treatment. And I get it. Somebody who has severe mental illness might not even know. They might not have the mental functioning to be able to even make a decision. But for the rest of the people, they're talking about mandating treatment. That's the big thing. We're going to force these people. To me, what's interesting is, if you look at the foundation of the people that are saying it, they don't really want to get these people help. They believe if they can force them into an institution that we'll see less homeless people. It has nothing to do with helping people. They just want to see less homeless people, and they feel that's the quickest. Let's commit them. Let's force them. Mandated treatment just doesn't work from my own experience. So so what happens when somebody's mandated treatment? Now I'll use my own example. A court, after I plowed my Mercedes around a parked Cadillac in North Hollywood. I blew a .28, 3 times the legal limit. LAPD. I'm a very I'm sober now, but I was a very high functioning addict, and LAPD actually breathalyzed me twice because they said they had never seen anybody blow 3 times the legal limit and be able to formulate a sentence. I could still talk. I just couldn't drive. So the judge, ordered me to treatment, and I stayed sober while I was in treatment. Most people do. And the moment I was out of treatment, I party on. In fact, it got worse because now I had a little bit of rest. It's like an athlete training, right? And I had profited money off the insurance. And so I had this big insurance check from my car, and when it was totaled, and I went on a run. We call it drug run, a binge, whatever you want, as soon as treatment was over, it was party on. Now, years later, when I want to get sober, where it's voluntary treatment, where I want to get sober, not a court telling me to get sober, where it's not mandatory, it's me wanting it. I've been sober 24 years. That's the difference. Mandatory treatment doesn't work. Now, I do believe we should, if somebody, let's go right to the source. So what we do in this country, I mean, our prisons are filled with nonviolent drug users, right? So if somebody is using drugs or dealing drugs, what we do is we lock them up, which creates now problems not just for them, but also their families. It actually creates more problems than it solves. Now, in countries like Portugal, where they treat drugs as a health crisis that it is, not a criminal offense, when somebody is caught dealing drugs or using drugs, they are then offered treatment and on their own terms. And by treating it as a health crisis instead of a criminal crisis, you actually, there's data that shows overdoses go down, drug use even goes down. But in our great country, you can buy stock of prisons. Prisons don't make money if they're empty, right? So there's this big push. The war on drugs was really to fill prisons, and that is my little rant, kind of like a soft rant. I wasn't like ranting like I do about how addiction and mental health. We have a serious addiction and mental health crisis. We need, it's funny because, and I don't know if, because I went public on my Twitter, there might be a couple people that are watching, but there is this growing narrative that homelessness is all just mental health and addiction, and that these people should be forced into treatment, and that has nothing to do with housing. What's interesting is, like, even from Dr. Drew Pinsky, and he knows because he's worked in the industry, your typical rehab is 28 days. First, it's really hard to get sober in 28 days. I think even from alcohol, your last booze stays with you for 120 days. But you're put into this 28-day treatment. You might have a few days of detox before you go in. And then you're just exited back to homelessness, where it's nearly impossible to stay sober homeless. It's almost impossible. And these people that are pushing, we need more mental health treatment, we need more addiction treatment. Yeah, we do. I'm not arguing that. That's spot on correct. But without housing, it doesn't do anything. It's just feeding we were talking about, Eric brought up the homeless industry. Well, then you have the treatment industry and the medical industry, and it's just churning people in and out and in and out, and people aren't being helped. It drives me crazy that they just push mental health and addiction without housing, because without housing, where do people go after they exit treatment? Into a shelter? That's warehousing. And then the shelters suck and people start doing drugs, then they go back into treatment. This idea that somebody goes into treatment for 28 days and then all of a sudden, ta-da, ta-da, magic happens and they get a job and first and last month's rent and a car and they're back. It just does not happen like that, right? And without some kind of housing, the whole thing crashes. Hopefully that made sense. John W. asks, what do I think about Trump's? So I know you guys were having a political chat. I try not to be political. I know we talked about Yang's UBI. Trump cut taxes for the 1%. I mean, if you own a plane, you got a tax cut. I mean, how many of you own a plane? I mean, for reals, right? To own a plane, that means not only you've got to have a hangar for the plane and money for airplane fuel and everything else. You're pretty well off if you have a pilot's license and own your own plane and have it in a hangar. And guess what? Trump gave you a tax cut. Well, he's got to pay for it. He's got to pay for it somehow. What do? You cut welfare programs. So it's really sad what's happening right now. There's this division between, it's really sad what's happening. And we got 10 minutes left, and maybe this will be a good way. And I know I don't want to be one of these people that just says this and it has no meaning, but we live in this great country and people are sleeping outside. We live in this great country and people don't have health care. It makes no sense. It really, really makes no sense. I mean, something is seriously, seriously wrong when thousands upon thousands of people are dying outside every year because they cannot afford adequate housing. It makes no sense whatsoever that people are not getting the health care that they need because we live in a country that healthcare is so stinking expensive. I have friends in Europe and they do not understand how we don't have healthcare. Well, what it is they pay taxes. And the rich people don't want to pay taxes for those of us that need help. And I don't get that because they are crazy, crazy rich. And I'm not one to point fingers at wealth and say wealth is bad. When I end up homeless again, and my chance of being homeless again is like 500 to 1,000%. I have no equity, no savings, no house, no anything. So when I get to the point where I can't hustle like I do, I'm going to be in a homeless shelter and hopefully somebody will house me. If I end up homeless again, I want Bill Gates to help me. I want somebody with money to help me. So money is not necessarily bad. It's greed that's bad. So there's people that are acquiring wealth that don't give back. And there's definitely a significant, serious crisis of, I think my numbers might be off, but you have, I think the Walton family made $26 billion last year, and most of their employees are just minimum wage. And struggling. The CEO of Boeing just got a golden parachute. He was basically fired of $60 million. $60 million, right? So wealth in itself isn't bad. It's this distribution of wealth because those of us like myself, and I'm sure many of you, we work really hard and we're struggling. We don't know how to make ends meet. And the people at the 1% that are making the huge amount of money, like the Boeing CEO, he got $60 million for being fired. $60 million. I can't imagine a $60 million severance check, right? And, his wealth is, extremely more, and so I think, and this is just me, and I know a lot of homeless advocates hate that I talk like this, but I think we need more wealthy people in this country that have a heart. I think we need more wealthy people that understand about this division and that are willing to take a pay cut so that their employees can have a pay increase. If you look over in Japan, your Toyota executives don't make a whole lot more than their frontline employees, where the Toyota, and I'm just picking Toyota, you can pick any company. You look at an industry here in the United States, and the executives are like getting $60 million when they're fired, and your frontline workers hustling every day at minimum wage. That is wrong. That is wrong. Wealth in itself is not wrong. Greed is wrong, and this separation of poor and wealth, it's something has to be done, and it's scary because I have friends that believe riots are going to happen at some point. And I lived through the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles. It was, talk about scary. And it wasn't, race was what triggered it, but then it became a class. People went shopping. They were, and that is very, 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 very scary. So we have 5 minutes left, and I am willing to stay a little bit extra. My voice starts going around an hour. How many of you watched the video I uploaded today, my 1000th video? How many of you watched all the way through? I share a bunch of stuff. I didn't plan on speaking for an hour, but there's some good stuff in there. I want to clarify something. I'm not Mustang Mark. Yes, I have been in jail. I am not. It's kind of weird because a milestone of 1,000 videos means that homelessness is still here. And I'm not, so many nonprofits in the homeless sector say, we're working until we're out of a job. Bullshit. It's a nice, cute saying, and I bet you many people mean well when they say it. But the truth is, until we fix racism, until we fix foster care, until we fix the living wage, lack of affordable housing, criminal justice system, we're going to have homelessness, right? So that it's just a nice, cute thought. But as I thought about 1,000 videos, it really kind of humbled me. I mean, it got me thinking about the beginning of Invisible People, which is what I talked about in the video. If you comment in the video, if you watch all the way, I can tell because people, there's like little nuggets throughout and people are commenting about them. I'm like, wow, you really did watch it. Thank you, Lori. And thank you, Judy. It's just in 2020, and I really am a glass half full thinker. People don't like that I'm honest. I won't go rah rah, we're ending homelessness, because that's bullshit. I'd much prefer to be honest. But when I look at 2020 and what I look at what's happening, and on some degree, in some level, I have been talking about much of this for 10 years, and it's happening. And in 2020, we're going to be dancing madly backwards. I think the homeless sector leaps and bounds has really improved. There's lots of room for improvement still. As I said earlier, it's the only sector where you go and get the runaround and don't get the help you need, right? And that still exists. But in 2020, and I've been thinking about this a lot, because the need for Invisible People's work, I'm almost getting emotional. The need for what we do is growing. I see us growing. And although I've wanted to grow, I mean, it's just human to want to grow, but I want, Invisible People to be self-sustaining. I also didn't want it to grow because of this. I wanted it to grow for good reasons, not because it's becoming the battle 10 homelessness is getting harder. Hopefully I'm explaining that right, but I'm very sincere in that. I see the need for our work growing. I mean, the need has always been there, but the homeless sector just didn't really see it. And I think they're starting to see it now. And that's because of all this bad stuff happening. I wish the homeless sector had seen the need earlier when it would have been a good thing. Because, and I was saying, I'm not one of these people that say, gosh, we're working ourselves out of a job, but I'd be more than happy to go back into marketing, start dating again because I have money. It's really hard to date when you don't have money. Like, hey, baby, you got a bus token? Let's go to Taco Bell. I got a gift card, right? And I'd really, go back into marketing, make money, get some health insurance, vacation in Hawaii like normal people. And what I'm trying to get to is I think 2019 was an amazing year for invisible people. And it was a pretty sucky year for me personally. Life has this paradox about it where there's usually a lot of good and a lot of bad. I don't know how long I am going to get emotional. I don't know how much longer my mom's going to be around. 2020 could have some really serious heartbreak. But I also see 2020 being pretty miraculous. Like, I'm going to drive around the country and I'm going to shake hands with as many of you as possible. We're going to break bread, have some kind of a meal together, and maybe even hand out some socks. That's happening in 2020. These documentaries that we're doing are going to grow in 2020. I'll be damned. This one of the hardest things I'm doing right now is trying to create curriculum for colleges and high schools. I don't like the word curriculum because it sounds very academic and school stuff. But I don't like the word programming either. But we're moving in some directions that are really important. That 2020 will be a very significant year. I mean, if you watch the 1000 video, it took us it took me 10 years to build this. Like I said, money slows you down. Somebody was talking about, the nonprofit sector, the amount that invisible people raises every year is so small. And thanks to all you guys, it's been growing. We almost doubled our revenue this year. I'm still not paid, but we have 14 writers. 6 of them are homeless. 5 of them are formerly homeless. All of them are awesome. We're bringing on some more writers. We're going to be in Google News. That's huge. We're doing journalism on homelessness, original content every single day. That's huge. And that's only made possible because of you guys. You guys, I'm going to get sappy here. You guys made this all happen. You are invisible people. You are, this is the invisible people community. And I am so, so grateful for you. Anyways, we're a little longer than an hour. And I don't know, are you guys, anybody going to be around? So I might do a midweek live stream. I'm in my hometown where taking care of Mom. tiny homes, luxury living lifestyle. I don't remember an email. I try to respond to every email possible that I receive. I do receive a lot. I do miss some. I do try to respond to every email. So, but what do you guys think about maybe even New Year's Eve stream or something? And I'm not sure. I'm not. But okay, so some of you leave in the comments what you guys think if you want a midweek stream. Right now, I don't have any plans. This is Binghamton, New York, so there's nothing jumping off. I'll tell you, I'll end with this, a little personal story. So hey, Lady T, I didn't see you jump in. Well, I've been ranting most of this time. New Year's Eve is double wages for musicians. And my dad was a drummer. And I started playing drums professionally at 14, meaning I made money. I was playing for money in clubs at 14 years old. And New Year's Eve is double wages, and you get free foods and free drinks. So you play on New Year's Eve. I mean, that is the thing. And I've had some marvelous New Year's Eves playing drums. And then a friend of mine talked me into going down to New York City. I mean, I made, and this is years ago, I made $600 once playing drums on New Year's Eve, plus free eats and free booze. And the year after, this friend talked me into going down to New York City to watch the ball drop. And where, that costs me money because you got to, pay for gas and hotel and food and everything. And it was so much fun. It was so crazy that I started going down to New York City every year. And it was amazing. That was my New Year's Eve. I don't know where so if you go and watch the 1000th video, this is the 1001 video. I just hit record and I started talking a little bit behind the scenes. So YouTube in 2010, August 24th, I think it was, maybe August 23rd, gave me their homepage for a day. And YouTube asked me to record a video like this directly to the YouTube community. So I was in Nashville at the time, and I set my tripod up in an alley that kind of looked cool. And it was funny because I couldn't edit the video. So it took me 79 takes. I remember 79 takes because I would start talking like I am now, and somebody would come out, a car would come down the alley, people would walk by, I would screw up, whatever. 79 takes. What's ironic about that is that people thought it was fake. They thought that I was like green screening it, right? That I wasn't really in an alley, So then last night, and I'd been wrestling. I really do. I have a folder full of old photos I was going to use and cut a video with. And then last night I just hit record and I just kept on talking. And then the longer I went oh my gosh, I'm not going to edit this now. I can't. I mean, I just kept on going. And then I thought maybe I went a half hour. I didn't know I talked for an hour. I can tell when I talk for an hour because my voice starts going, and my voice had started going, but I didn't quite think it was an hour. And sure enough, I put it into Adobe Premiere and bam, 58 minutes. Oh my gosh. But there's some really neat, there's some neat stories that I told about there. In fact, I talked about how the 3 wishes started. So if you haven't had a chance yet, hit that. I think you'll like it. I don't know about a midweek video yet. Oh my gosh, thank you to everybody that's donated. I see people are donating. Oh my gosh, thank you. I wish it would let me know who. So when you do super chats, it tells me who's donating. But this one, thank you, Derek. This one doesn't. I wish they would do that. So, anyways, happy 2020 as it's coming fast. Thank you very much for supporting Invisible People. Thank you very much for sharing our work and talking about us. And, I know not everybody can donate, but you guys, you support us by, sharing the video, sharing the tweets, sharing the Facebook, and it makes a difference. And I greatly appreciate it. We've been doing these chats for, I think, over a year now. I did not expect this either, and I'm really, really grateful. 2020 is going to be, I can't say it's going to be a great year. I can't say it's going to be a bad year, but we're going to navigate it and rock it and get through it together. What it will be is a year where we need more than ever to rally to change the story on homelessness. The ugly, harmful narratives are exploding. They're growing rapidly. And we're the only ones. We're the only education-based nonprofit working to end homelessness on a level like that. Oh my gosh. So it did show Witchy Poo, thank you so much for your donation. I'm going to scroll back through. I see it did show. Okay, so it doesn't show them all. For everybody that donated, thank you very much. Stay tuned. I might do a midweek show. Part of that is for you guys, because I love you guys, and part of that is for our online support group, give people a place to hang out. And maybe in the first of the year, next couple of weeks, we'll do like you know what? Maybe I should do a marathon, like a telethon or something. I not enough time to plan that now, but we'll do something, and I'll work in the technology that we'll be able to have guests. Hopefully, I was told YouTube would fix that. So, anyways, everybody, thank you very much for spending an hour of your Sunday night with me. Have a great week. And if I don't see you in the middle of the week, I'll see you next Sunday.